This is MrsAgroSquerril standing in for Agro while he recovers from some vocal strain. He is on the mend, but it could be a while yet. I hope you enjoy. Singing the Approach by Marilyn of Many. You're coming on this delivery, Z told me with a flick of his antenna. We have to make noises as we walk up. What kind of noises? I asked, accepting the tablet he held out. There's a sound file. He angled his head away, but with eyes that big, he was still looking at me. I'm not going to try to copy it. That's on you. I opened the briefing for our newest clients, which included a rundown of their species and a sound file for a standard greeting. Well, standard for an off-world courier delivering something they'd ordered. Apparently, there were many types of greetings. I played the top one, and it sounded like whale song. I looked at Z. Sure we can't just play this really loud? Z angled his antenna into a no. Captain says they'll like us better if it's an actual voice. Are your human voice bits up to that? Yeah, shouldn't be too hard. I cleared my throat and gave it a shot. It sounded like a childish imitation to me, but a subtle twitch of Z's antenna suggested he was pretending not to be impressed. Good enough, he said. I'm going, because I'll need to open the crates before they accept them. He flexed a pincher arm, purple exoskeleton shining. You get to do the talking. They speak doorway, right? I asked, looking through the file. If it's one of the more obscure trade languages, we may want to bring Coles or Trelly along. Yes, doorway continues to open many doors, Z said with an aggravated sigh, his favourite kind. He was probably grumpy that a language from his own species hadn't taken off like this one had. But not every race was up to the intricacies of that many different hesses, and the Heat Seekers had crafted doorway with interplanetary communication in mind. A level of cooperation that would have surprised me coming from Mesmer society as a whole. I heard my name, said a voice from hip height. Hey Coles, I said to our shortest and most patient crewmate. I was just wondering if the delivery would need your translation skills, but it sounds like not. I angled the tablet so he could see. He gave it a look, then nodded, scaly face as calm as ever. Oh, those folks. I wonder if there was ever a consensus on whether their own name for themselves translates as ground grabbers or ground huggers. They do embrace each other with their grabbing arms. So, last I heard, it was hard to say. The customer was listed on the tablet as a ground grabber. It was kind of a silly name to my way of thinking, but I'd heard worse. I said, it probably won't come up in conversation if we just stick to business. Keep an eye out for the tree grabbers, Cole said. They live nearby, but higher up. And the things barely count as trees, but it's the best we could do. Right, I said. I wanted to ask more, but the intercom chimed with the about to land noise. We all took our positions. I followed Z to the cargo hold, and Coles continued on to whatever he'd been doing. While I waited for the ship to land, I entertained myself with the realization that the species names could also be translated as landlubbers or tree huggers. The view when the door finally opened was of a blue-skied desert scrubland, with a town made of sturdy one-floor buildings constructed out of dusty red clay blocks. Coles would have blended right in, I thought, as I helped maneuver the hover sled down the ramp. That might have been a problem, actually. The briefing had been clear that the ground grabbers had poorer eyesight than average, which was why the polite thing to do was to herald your arrival. Speaking of which, I cleared my throat again and sang my best whale song, while Z and I towed the package toward the 3 large figures walking toward us. Not for the first time, I was very glad for the captain and the pilots watching from the cockpit, who would let us know if there was a problem. They'd already gotten permission to land and talked with someone who was sending out the right people to meet us. People who looked an awful lot like rhinos with a creepy set of extra arms reaching out from their backs. Long-fingered like they were meant to be wings, but had gotten sidetracked on the evolutionary path. Right, ground grabbers. They sang more whale song back, then, to my relief, greeted us in doorway. The conversation went smoothly. I described everything that we were bringing them, exactly what they'd ordered, packaged at an off-world store. and Z easily cranked open the lids for inspection. The exotic food that they'd ordered was extremely sour fruit with a smell that made my eyes water. I would have worried about looking unprofessional for a moment there, but I was pretty sure they didn't notice the face I made before wiping my eyes. After they did some sniffing and some careful fondling with the grabber arms, they declared the items acceptable and had Z put the lids back on. While the ground grabber in front was signing the payment tablet, I caught motion from the corner of my eye. I turned to look, and I heard something like whale song, just higher pitched. Oh, I thought, so these are the tree grabbers. They scampered across the dusty ground like long-limbed monkeys, pausing every so often to look around for danger, in the manner of prey animals everywhere. They had big eyes and mousy ears, plus tiny little horn nubbins on their noses. Their top set of arms looked much like their lower ones, probably very useful for climbing the giant cactus things in the distance. I had a theory about the evolution of these two species. The landlubbers turned to greet the tree huggers in a moment of beautiful music, with both groups singing together. Then it devolved into conversation that I couldn't follow, since they weren't bothering with doorway now. But soon they turned to address me. The ground grabber still holding the tablet asked me in her deep voice, "How long would it take for you to bring the same amount for them?" The tree grabbers hopped in barely restrained excitement. "Let me check with the captain," I said, glancing at Z. I took out my phone and called back to the ship, stepping away while he finalized the payment for the first delivery. Captain Sunlight had of course been watching from the cockpit and already had an answer for me. I relayed it to the tree grabbers, who thought it sounded fantastic, and the captain said she'd be right out to negotiate. The bravest tree grabber asked, "Can your air wing land closer to our home?" He pointed a long arm towards the cactuses, which I now realized had tiny figures climbing the many spikes and branches, along with dark spots that looked like doors. "There is a section of high ground. We can meet there. We'd never ask an off-worlder to climb." Z hissed a laugh. "This one might like the chance." He pointed an elbow at me. "Well," I said, "it might be a bit of a challenge with this many crates." The tree grabber wiggled his ears like a cartoon mouse. "Oh, maybe afterward." I looked at Z. I wouldn't say no to a quick visit. Z was quietly laughing at me, which wasn't a surprise. "Excellent," the tree grabber said. The ground grabbers moved to unload the sled. "Don't let the air grabbers catch the scent of it," said the lead one. This was news. "Air grabbers?" I asked. The big rhino's arms were busy with the crates, and Z's help, but the little monkey mouse pointed behind our ship. I hadn't really looked in that direction yet, and I found a flat mountaintop back there holding what might have been another city, and the sides were speckled with possible windows. "They live up high, but they're always down here pestering everyone else," said the monkey mouse. "Nobody likes an air grabber," rumbled the rhino, balancing a crate on her back. "They never herald their approach, and they come from above." "So rude," agreed the tree grabber. "They think any door that's open is an invitation. Just because they can fly right to it. They would probably make you deliver to the side of their cliffs. Those are much harder to climb than trees." Z gave me a look. "Well, especially with the crates." The monkey mouse looked shocked. "Really? Your people climb things like that?" Z answered before I could. "Humans climb anything they can, and a few things they can't. Plus they wear wingsuits sometimes that lets them glide on artificial wings." I asked him, "When did I tell you about wingsuits?" He spread his mandibles in a grin. "I looked it up after you climbed on top of that other ship at the spaceport." "Hey, that wasn't my idea. She needed help with maintenance up there." "And you didn't see anyone else volunteering without an anti-grav pack?" "Oh," said the tree grabber. "Do you have a source for those? Some of our elders could really use them." "Let's ask the captain," I said with a look toward the ship. Captain Sunlight and Paint were heading towards us, two lizardy figures with a recording of whale song, since their vocal cords weren't quite up to human-level mimicry. I'm pretty sure there was a store that sold them at the same spaceport as these fruits. And yes, I said to Z, it was run by humans. End of story.
members Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.